Katia Yarno lives in a spacious loft apartment in downtown Pittsburgh. She works as a window dresser at Horne's, a large department store. Her work involves creating visual installations related to lingerie, clothing, and accessories. She prepares compositions of mannequins, lighting, and objects to attract customers. While creating one of her displays, Katia encounters a man named Jack Price. He appears in the department store while she's working on the mannequins. He watches her work. Afterward, he begins appearing more frequently, standing nearby and observing her at various times of the day. At the same time, Jack begins appearing in the area around her home. He watches the entrance to her building and her return in the evening. At where Katia receives another assignment, to prepare a more revealing, provocative window display. She creates a new installation with mannequins and lingerie, arranges the objects, adjusts the lighting, and prepares the backdrop. Jack is nearby again. He monitors the installation process and watches for moments when Katia is alone. He begins following her on her way home from work, tracking her route through the city. Katia meets a man with whom she develops a brief acquaintance. They spend time together, visiting places around the city and chatting. Katia brings him to her apartment. Jack moves to a more persistent surveillance. He finds out where Katia lives. He goes up to her floor, examines the door and the hallway. After some time, he enters the building, enters her apartment in her absence, and surveys the furnishings. He opens drawers, touches objects, examines mannequins and clothing, leaving behind traces of his presence. Katia, returning, notices a change in the arrangement of her belongings and realizes that someone has been inside. She increases her vigilance, checking locks, examining footprints, and inspecting rooms. While she continues to perform her duties at work, Jack increasingly watches her movements. He chooses moments when she is alone and follows her in his car. He parks near her house and remains there at night. Katia begins to notice suspicious sounds and signs of surveillance. She spots Jack near a department store and on the streets of Pittsburgh. He makes no secret of his presence and follows her from a distance. Soon, he enters her apartment again. He inspects the bedroom, workspace, mannequins, and belongings. Katia returns and discovers further signs of intrusion. After a series of similar incidents, Katia decides to take more action. She analyzes Jack's routine, movements, and behavior. She finds out about him, learns that he lives with his wife, and stakes out his house. She determines the time he is absent and goes to the house to survey the situation. She records the layout of his rooms, his habits, and his routes. Katia begins planning her response. She prepares materials and tools for a future intervention. She chooses a moment when Jack is outside the house and enters. She inspects the rooms and studies his lifestyle. She places the prepared objects in different places in the house so that his usual order is disrupted. She rearranges objects, introduces shifts in the interiors, and leaves signs of someone else's presence. After this, she leaves the house before Jack returns. He discovers the environment has changed and realizes someone has been inside. His behavior becomes more abrupt. He begins actively stalking Katia again, following her around the city, watching her from her car, and tracking her at work. Meanwhile, Katia is creating a new window display in the department store. She's using bolder design elements to attract the public's attention. She's preparing a composition with mannequins, fabrics, and accessories. When the display is ready, Jack appears at the glass. He examines the installation and watches Katia through the glass. Katia decides to follow through with her plan. She determines the time when Jack is most vulnerable and prepares the final steps. She chooses the night when he's trying to penetrate her space again. He goes up to her apartment, trying to gain access. Katia is prepared for this. She uses pre-planned actions to protect herself and stop Jack. A struggle ensues between them, and she breaks free and flees. She calls the police. Katia leaves the apartment and goes down the stairs, approaches the window display, and they stare at each other through the glass.